This is Fred Smith with Houston Graduate School of Theology, Director of the Center for Leadership in Public Life. Then today in Bright Spots, we are going to be looking at a health ministry and a health ministry professional and all that by name of soon to be Dr. Misha Brown, who is the health minister at Windsor Village. I met this young lady not long ago in a health and justice project that they're doing. And so we're going to talk today to her. I want to know more about her exciting story and how she got started, what does health equity means to her, and just tell me who you are, what you're about.
Hi, I'm like Dr. Fred Smith mentioned, I'm Misha Brown, a health minister at the Windsor Village Church family, where we truly believe in helping people achieve total temple transformation, and that is a healthy mind, body, and spirit, also including social well-being as well. And that's how he came to know about the Health Justice Project at the church, as well as in the community.
Okay. Well, what is health equity? What does that mean to you? How did you come to this stage in your life?
Well, health equity to me means quality health and health care for all persons, and those that have unfair disadvantage due to societal ills are given the resources that they need to achieve optimal health and well-being across the lifespan.
That sounds great, but what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
Well, for me, starting out, as I mentioned before, in undergrad at the University of Houston, I noticed one of the public housing communities nearby the university.
It's okay, look at me.
One of the housing projects nearby the university had some disadvantages, and I wanted to know more about it because we would hear such horrible stories about things that are going on in the community, for example, violence. And I just wanted to go over there to see what it was really about, because I know that you can't give a community a name and have these statistics without it having a real story behind it. And so a good friend of mine, we decided one day after classes to go over there and visit the residents. And of course, we had to be a little bit brave given the statistics that people have for this community. And so we met with the president of the residential council there. And basically, I told a little bit about our background. My friend and I were both in the health professions majors. She was a biomedical engineer, and myself pre-nursing at the time. And so we wanted to know what could we help them with health-wise. And so the older resident, she told me that they had been dealing with a lot of people getting their joints amputated. She's like, they're just cutting limbs off, and they'll start with the toe, and then it's the foot, and then it's the whole leg. And she's like, we need to keep our young boys out of gang violence too, because some of them, while they have nothing else to do after school, so they need something to do with their time. And they're joining gangs, and they're selling drugs so they can buy food and nice clothes like they see everybody else wearing. And so we took this information back to the university in order to try to find some help for this particular community. No one really wanted to help us at first, given, like I said, the violence and the poor representation of this community in the news. So we didn't get a lot of initial support. It took me meeting one professor that I knew was a researcher, a cancer researcher. So I knew she also had maybe a little bit of money that she had herself or could connect me to some. And
last time you told me you were a professional beggar now.
Yes. And so this was before then. This was me preparing to make my pitch. And so I explained to her the story about what we were doing and how we wanted to help. And by the end of this conversation, she had wrote me a check. And that's when I got the title of professional beggar. That she was my first, client.
Okay, we'll go with that.
And so she told the story to folks that are higher up within the department, and they started a matching gift program so they could fund the work that we were doing in this community. And we reach out to local grocery stores, and they'd give us free products and things like that.
I think that is so important, because we have the scripture, you have not because you ask not.
Yeah, that too. And sometimes you got to keep asking.
And you got to keep asking. That's
Yes.
the insistent lady who keeps knocking at the door, who keeps pestering the judge, until he finally gives her justice.
Yeah.
I just wanted to lift that
So
up because so many of our congregations, so many of our folks go for lack of funds or see themselves as not being able to do the kinds of things they want to do, and simply because they don't ask. So I just want to lift that up.
That's a big part of it. And one thing that I learned also, if someone cannot give you money, maybe there's some other kind of tangible good that they could provide that's just as important to fill a void as well. And so we don't accept no as an answer. It's something that you can give us. If it's not money or a tangible good, you can give us your time.
I like
it's
that.
Something. So,
I like that.
And that's really important when it came to serving this community and help to lift them up. And another thing that we wanted to do was empower them to seek help for themselves by letting them know what kinds of resources were out there. And so starting a GED education program, WorkSource solutions coming out to help them prepare for jobs and job interviews and that sort of thing as well.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Tell me, did you grow up in Houston?
I did not grow up in Houston. I grew up in a small town about 45 minutes to an hour south of Houston. Only had one red light and 2 convenience stores. And so I moved to Houston right when I started undergraduate studies. Yeah. And I've known.
Is there a big difference between where you grew up and
Oh,
Houston?
yes. So we, in my community, I grew up in a very impoverished environment. And I mentioned to you before, like we were so broke I couldn't afford to pay attention half the time. And so we had it was a particular time that we didn't have indoor plumbing, using the restrooms in buckets, bathing in buckets, washing our clothes in a bucket, separate buckets, but nevertheless. And it was a period of time where me and my mom shared a twin-size mattress together. And so even in this environment, though, I learned a lot about helping people overcome the adversity by watching my mom take care of a lot of people, feed a lot of people in the community. And she was also the primary caretaker of my grandmother, who was bedridden due to several strokes. And so seeing her really advocate for others, and even some of my cousins and other relatives that we had were addicts, and she still treat them like regular people and ensure that their needs were taken care of. And so that was something I learned, to love people.
So that was in your genes, basically, part of you growing up.
Literally.
Yeah. So when you came to this housing project, how did the poverty there strike you versus what you had grown up, what you have seen most of your life?
I can't say that it was very much different than what I seen growing up. Growing up, it was more so hidden, where people wouldn't talk about it as much. And in this, going into the housing project, it was a little bit different. Because it was a public community in an area where there's so many resources. So for us, we lived in a rural area, so that we didn't have a bus route, we didn't have a local grocery store or any of these things. So we were kind of just stuck with where we are until we could find a way to do better.
So you could identify the assets in those communities right away.
And I was wondering, how come these people don't have access to all the resources that were within a mile, really, to get to? And so I wanted to learn more about that and hear it from their perspective. So transportation was a big barrier for them. Even though they're on a public bus route, you also need the money to do that as well. And quality childcare and a babysitter, so that they can go out and partake in the resources that are available to them, and climb through or get through the discrimination as well based on their zip code.
So what you were able to do is begin to first of all, you were able to see with new eyes, that probably the residents there hadn't seen before because they live in it. And then you were able to connect them to the resources that they had because you had sort of an understanding of what they might need based upon your own experience to improve their lives and their health. Is that?
That sounds about right. I think what ultimately has made me effectively reach them, in almost 10 years now I've been serving this particular community, has been being authentic and genuine and building rapport. I think that's the foundation of any relationship. When people genuinely know that you care about them and their well-being, and you're not just there to capture a story or just to be a savior, have that savior complex. Well, I'm going to reach out to them because they're an underserved community, and it makes me feel good that I'm doing a good deed. That wasn't my thing. I truly felt connected to them, and I think the helping other people is a responsibility of citizenship. Like we're supposed to lift up our neighbor if we see someone else in need and how we can help them. And that was just in my nature, like I said, watching my parents and especially my mom take care of my grandmother is if you can offer something to someone, do so. And I figured, and I was a bit naive, being a freshman in college. That's like, okay, well, I'm a health major. I can do some health related. It's like this is I only completed one semester of college, but I knew that I could do something and be a voice for them if they let me know what they needed. And take this back to one of the largest public institutions in the state. So.
That is something. So tell me, how did you? I mean, before I get there, your youth. You look young. The last person I talked to, you look like a high school student. How did youth really stand as sort of a barrier or something that you had to overcome to accomplish the kind of things that you did?
Being a young person, and you know how young people like to think that nothing can stop us, or that we can't not do anything.
There you go.
I think that helped me.
Okay.
So I hear no a lot, still do, because even in my social and professional circles, I'm usually the youngest person and usually the only minority. So it actually it was to my benefit. And me being a young person reaching out to older adults, they were grateful that young people were interested in what they had to say. And so my youthfulness is a benefit to me because it's not something that you see typically, that young people will take an interest in older adults and that kind of thing. So it's helped me.
I think that's a tremendous example, because my experience is that many young people are really motivated, to do something. Oftentimes they don't know what to do, but they got the energy, and like you said, they just think they can accomplish everything. So to see the example of what you've actually accomplished, I mean, I think that's going to be a tremendous benefit for a lot of young people who might want to emulate the kind of things you want to do. So tell me about you had Windsor Village, the family of Windsor Village now.
The Windsor Village Church family.
Windsor Village Church family. That's becoming popular.
The Windsor Village Church family.
No, not the Windsor Village. Well, tell me about that. How'd you get into the position that you are? How'd you get to Windsor Village? What are y'all doing over there?
Wow. So I was introduced to the Windsor Village Church family my freshman year of college by two lay ministers in the community that were also members of the church. And so they'd come pick me up from my dorm and take me to church. And it took just one visit. I was like, this place feels like home. I felt so comfortable there. And eventually, by the time my senior year, I decided that I would join Windsor Village. And right after graduation, I had purchased a new car. And I was like, I want to commit some time to volunteering in the church. Maybe I can do some health-related work in the church. So I reached out to one of the staff members there that was responsible for coordinating health-related programming in the church. And so we met in the coffee shop in the church. I had my resume. I was well prepared, like a job, so I could sell myself that I wanted to be a volunteer, and all of my accomplishments. And she was thoroughly impressed. And so it was one of the easiest interview experiences ever. And maybe a week or less than a week had went by, and I got a call from someone in the church, and they were like, "Oh, well, we want to appoint you as Managing CEO of Health and Wellness here at the church."
Managing CEO?
I was like, did you call the right person? And I was a bit taken aback because again, I was a young person, so I'm like, I'm going to be leading the health initiative. You want me? It's like, yeah, you. The information that you gave during the interview about your vision of what faith-based health and wellness meant to you and what the church could be like. And for me, I always liken the church to an academic medical center where people learn, grow, and
That's
heal.
interesting. I've never heard that before. Okay.
And so I've always seen the church really as a powerhouse to be able to do that because I recognize that it's a pillar in the African American community. Also, you have a captured audience. Many people will attend at least once, twice a week, and even more so if it's a special occasion or there's other programming going on in the church. So when you have that captured audience, you want to do something with it. And so I started looking into how I could create an evidence base for the work that I was already doing in the community, but make it more so faith-based, and not only just incorporating scripture, but let it be a part of the inner workings of what's already going on in the church. And so, am I missing something?
No, go ahead,
continue-
go ahead.
continue
Well, no,
go?
but basically, so what are you doing there now? I mean, what is Winston Village Health Ministry doing, including the Justice Project, but what else are you doing?
Okay,
And I want to hear about the Justice Project too, but I also want to know about what else you're doing.
Okay, so the health ministry, like I said in the introduction, our focus is on helping people achieve total temple transformation.
Total temple.
transformation.
The
and
temple of God is,
yes,
your
our body is a
temple of
temple.
God. Okay.
And to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, but also our bodies and our spirits. And so we look at helping people achieve that through our over 40 academic, faith, and pharmaceutical partnerships.
40.
Over 40.
What are some of your partners?
Wow. I just established my 48th partnership on last Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. A telemedicine initiative for diabetes prevention in older adults so that we can reduce hospital readmission rates.
Is it okay to say the name of the company? Would that be a problem?
I don't want to at
Okay,
this
that's
particular
all right.
moment.
All right, that's okay.
But we just did that, and some of our partners are the Hawk Foundation for Mental Health
Okay.
at University of Texas,
Okay.
Austin, MD Anderson Cancer Center. MD
Okay.
Anderson has a research office in the
Okay.
church, and a couple of other universities as well. University of Houston has been a long-time partner,
Okay.
my alma mater, as well as health insurance companies, the health department as well. Are
So why are
partners.
all these big organizations partnering with Windsor Village,
Well,
with the church?
Well, I think a lot of organizations are realizing the opportunity to reach medically underserved folks, especially African Americans. We're a large African American community located in an underserved neighborhood that's predominantly African American and Hispanic.
Do you think that has anything to do with the Affordable Health Care Act, or the transformation from fee-for-service to value-based health care, or global budgeting? Does that have anything to do with any of all that?
I think it has a lot to do with that. I know each year during open enrollment period, we provide our facility for health as a health insurance marketplace. So we welcome all the local health insurance providers, as well as a couple of national organizations to come in to not only educate people about the options that are available, but use it as a screening opportunity, as well for health screenings and other resources to figure out what their immediate needs are. And we've done that for the last 6 or 7 years, enrolling hundreds of people during each enrollment period.
I like would you say you invited them in? I mean, so is this relationship one in which you go out because you have a need, you see an organization that can meet the need, or is it a case that they see you as an organization that they can use to accomplish theirs, or is it sort of a mutual thing, you strike a mutual benefit?
Well, the desire is always to find areas of synergy when establishing partnerships. A lot of time I meet people in the community where I'm already out serving other folks, and always have a card or something that I could give to them to reach out to me if I can ever be of assistance to them.
Okay.
And so, given our name and our prominence in the community, usually it's people that reach out to me. I get 10 to 15 emails a week of people wanting to either visit our church or talk about what we could do together. But I'm more discerning about which partnerships that I do follow up on to ensure that our people's, our congregation, our community's best interest is at heart and not being exploited or taken advantage of.
Now, Visit Village, like you say, is very prominent, very well known. A lot of people look up to it. You do a lot of major conferences. Do you work with other churches?
Yes. Right now, one of our largest partnerships with other churches is our African American Faith-Based Mental Health Network of Texas.
With the Hawk Foundation?
Yes, it's funded by the Hawk Foundation. It's also in partnership with Prairie View A&M University College of Juvenile Justice and Psychology, and about 10 other churches in Houston, Dallas, and Austin area.
Okay, very good. Now, tell me about this Health Justice Project. I heard about this person called, what's her name? Is Karen or Kimberly or something
Kimberly
like that?
Parker.
Kimberly Parker, okay. Yeah. How did you meet her? How did this whole thing get
So
started?
how did Dr. Parker and I meet? She can elaborate so much better on that story than I can.
I want to hear from you.
She's a mentor of mine.
Okay.
She's my former master's thesis chair at Texas Women's University. And so the Health Justice Project is actually her vision. I just head up the faith-based component of the Health Justice Project.
So it's
And the
larger than
purpose-
larger than faith-based.
It's larger than that.
Okay.
And it's been implemented in multiple states. And the primary purpose of the Health Justice Project is to help people tell their stories related to experiences of racial and social injustices and how that shapes negative health outcomes.
Okay. So is there one story that stands out for you? You can tell us
Well,
about. You have not tell names or anything, but just a story that to give us a flavor of the kind of things that you're discovering.
One of the stories that's closest to me is one of our clients. She's 23 years post incarceration, a former felon that hasn't been able to find gainful employment as well as equitable or quality housing in her community. She hasn't reoffended in over 23 years. She's received numerous certifications as a community health worker, peer recovery specialist, but can't get employed or make a decent wage because of being a felon. And so, to me, I think it's really terribly sad because she served her time, paid her debt to society, so to speak. But she can't be employed or become a regular citizen again without the label of being an ex-con, a former felon. And so at what point do we allow people another chance? Once they have been rehabilitated, it's like they're continuously punished every time they have to present that label.
When you say we, you mean Windsor Village? What do you mean we allow them another chance? What do you mean by that?
Society as a whole.
Society as a whole, okay.
Now, our church family, we help people build
Okay.
better lives. That's our whole focus. Because all of us at some point in life will need someone to not only take a chance on us, but to give us a chance to be better people, to reestablish ourselves. And Windsor Village took a chance on me. Like I said, I was a young person.
Yeah.
To take a chance on my vision and how what God gives me to want to do within the church and the community. So they took a chance on me. But there are people with what might be negative histories that also, when they show promise that they are trying to be better and to do better and become a fully functional member of society, we need to allow them to be able to do that and not continue to judge them based on past experiences.
Now, what about I used to work with a group that talked about drop the box. You know, the box that you had to fill out, whether or not you have a
Yes.
felony and so forth. And so this
If you have a
advocacy
drug
work.
case or whatever,
right.
whatever kind of convictions you
So
previously
those are
had.
policy issues. Does Windsor Village, how would Windsor Village or other churches try to address government policies and employment policies, that really not just one individual person like this person, but really has a mass effect. Because the church has in history had the ability to do that when it had made up its mind that was something important. Do you see any of that happening?
We've been involved with several policy initiatives. Not too many that I could actually get in this conversation related to the criminal justice system. But definitely one of our newer projects is called the Hope Through Justice Outreach Initiative.
Okay.
The HOPE stands for Helping Others Prosper Eternally Through Justice Outreach. And what we do is partner with local law enforcement and other criminal justice officials to help people reduce recidivism for one, but also help young people and adults get into mental health and substance use recovery programs so that they don't end up back in jail.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're almost out of time. I would love to give you some time just to say what you want to say, what's on your heart. I mean, what motivates you? Tell me about your faith. Just anything that comes to mind. You're such an articulate person, and so I want to give you a chance to articulate.
What's important to me is really when I realize that I have a gift to serve other people or resources to help meet needs, is that I find the necessary people and the partnerships to make that happen. And so for me, community collaboration is a big deal to me, and that's my heart for what I do, is to serve people and help others build better lives. And the more people that I could serve and more partnerships that I could establish to do that, that's to me is my life purpose.
What would
It's
you
to
give-
help people heal.
What would you give, what advice would you give to a young person who may just happen to come across this show and to see you up here and to see the kinds of things that you've done, and they may be in similar situations that you grew up in, you know, and maybe searching for a path forward? What would you want to say to them?
One of the most important things that I've received along my journey is definitely education. But don't just rely on what you learn in the classroom. I like to think that I'm primarily self-taught. I read over 200 books a year on a number of different topics.
That's why they call you Book.
On a number of different topics to help inform the work that I do. Also, I think never be afraid to ask for help, and never be afraid to say what you do not know. And that allows people to see your vulnerability, but also it gives you strength. It strengthens your weak areas. And so for me, I'm always looking for help.
Yeah.
Always asking questions.
Yeah, I think that's very important. You know, we've been discussing health equity. We've been trying to lift up different congregations and other ministries that are addressing it. And I'm just so grateful that you were able to drop in today, you know, to talk about that. And we're going to have you back a little bit later to discuss more fully the Health Justice Project and other things that you're going to be talking about. But we're going to have your mentor on the show next. You know,
That'd be great.
She's in the
She's
studio,
fabulous.
and we can hardly wait to have a conversation, you know, with her as well, and have both of you up here. And remember, you know, this is a conversation, you know, and you're not just talking with me, but you're talking with those folks out there. And so this was Bright Spots, and we thank you for sharing with us today. See you next time.